And away we go. It's the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com, also brought to you in part by Yahoo Sports DFS. Check out their offerings over there. Out of the dark and into the light is EMAC. I'm Dan Strafford. Happy to be, if you're listening, you'll get it when you watch on YouTube.
There's no video when I do these.
Oh, fair. But that's no fun. But nonetheless, Dan Strafford and EMAC along with you on this Tuesday morning. We have a 15-game MLB slate. We'll get through it by going game by game through each pitcher. So you'll get a taste of how we're looking at each pitcher on this slate, and then talk over top stacks or the offenses we're targeting. You'll get a lot of that, though, by us talking through the pitchers who we are not going to be rostering. EMAC, how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing well, Dan. It's been a fun little weekend. I'm back dabbling on FanDuel. They once again are overlaying on their sub slates because they insist on setting their next slate appearing on your default window being whatever their next main slate is. So I've jumped in a bunch of ticket contests that went off at about half full today here for the 2-game late, whatever the late slate is called on Monday. It's 2 games. It's the 8:40 Colorado game and then the battle for LA. So there we are. So that was fun. I had a nice little run there this weekend. I played 2 lineups, won a couple $100 and about $50 in tickets. The one thing that's annoying, it takes them 2 or 3 days to put the tickets in your account, and then if you don't see them, you're supposed to ask. I'm like, I can barely when I'm winning, I can see that I'm winning them. But then when you go look at your current history, it doesn't tell you. It doesn't show up as green or anything like that. You're like, well, did I lose? Was there a stack correction? What happened? It's like, no. They just suck.
Yeah, they got to worry about that sports book in New Jersey. Can't be investing in the. I love you, fan. No, I don't play on you at all. So I can't say one way or another. But pretty smart move there. I like the seeking out of those half-filled tournaments because their UI sucks. That's really smart and way to go about it for everybody listening. Don't take all the spots because EMAC wants some, but pretty smart to make it work as different slates pop up, especially on FanDuel with some overlay. We're gonna again go game by game through the pitching matchups and make this work for you all. As always, you can find us over on Twitter, Awesemo_com. Don't forget, as always, free advice for you. If you want 50% off your first month, use the promo code EARLYBIRD, one word, gets you 50% off your first month over at Awesemo.com. We're recording while game 5 is going on. I assume there's a Fred Van Vliet tournament, Fred Van Elite, to use your term. If there's a game 6, there will be another. Obviously, if the Raptors win, that has run its course finally.
Please let it end is what I'm saying at this point. However, you can check out my pinned tweet. What you're going to want to do while you haven't seen these on Twitter is we've put them in the Osmo DK account. So all you got to go is my pinned tweet on Twitter. It's at EMACDFS. That'll give you the link that lets you join the Osmo account. You can also see it. I'll put it at the bottom of both the YouTube recording of the show as well as the Podbeam version. But the Podbeam version is not going to be a hyperlink, so you're just better off going to my pinned tweet if you're not watching this on Yahoo. The Yahoo one hyperlink. So there you go.
There you have it. All right, let's dive in. We have 15 games. We'll go through the pitching fairly quickly, but give you an idea early on here where EMAC is looking and what I have my eyes on from a pitching perspective. We'll dive into the Subway Series. The Yankees and the Mets are playing a doubleheader, and it is capitalism at its finest. It's a 1:05 start and a 7 o'clock start, so you get both admissions. Well done.
Oh, they're going to run the turnstiles for both of them.
Oh, absolutely. Only way to do it in the Bronx, as they print money every year, hand over fist. But nonetheless, we have Paxton and Vargas. I'm triple confirming that because of the rain out on Monday that is in fact who we're getting for the night game. But that is who I currently see. I'm going to double check as we start here. Obviously, this is Paxton, who has had an awesome run to start with the Yankees, has been absolutely dynamic on the mound. He's had some hiccups here and there, but has been what they wanted when they went out and got him. Last time out, pretty poor outing. I get it, but he's still a guy who only gave up 3 earned runs, a home run, just didn't have it from the strikeout perspective. If he's going, he's one of the best in the game. I truly believe that. But at 10-1 on a 15-game slate, what do you think there? And I can't believe in Jason Vargas. I know people have been talking about how he's been the most consistent Mets starter. consistent at what, I really have that question. But
do people forget isn't he like 36?
I don't know if he's that old, to be quite honest. But I'll double check while you start breaking down this game and confirm these are in fact the night starters for this contest. But what's your view of this contest, and how do you think the pitching breaks down?
All right. The one thing, I mean, we like Paxton. He has, he's coming off injuries. He's a guy who's in his early to mid 30s as well. He just had a bunch of injuries riddled seasons there with the Mariners. But let's see, he has made 2 starts since his last injury. So Paxton went 66 pitches on the 29th against San Diego. He did manage 7 strikeouts through 4 innings. And then on the 5th in Toronto, he went 83 pitches, got, 4 strikeouts, made it to just shy of completing the 5th inning there. But he did allow 4 runs. 3 of them were earned. I'm going to guess he's going to creep up to about 90 pitches, which is perfectly fine. However, at 10,100 gets a little dicey, particularly when you remember that, or are learning right now, that the Mets somehow have, I have to have sorted this incorrectly. There's no way that Fangraphs is doing this. Oh my God, they are. So the Mets are the 5th highest WRC plus against lefties at 122. That is with their current active roster. Wow, that is pretty high. It makes sense because, they do have a lot of righties that they're all doing this well. It doesn't always make sense. They're walking at just 7.4% rate. They are striking out just shy of 25%, but they are plating some runs. So that is one thing you want to think about. So it's not really going to be a slam dunk here with Paxton. The one thing with 15 games on this, we should see the popularity of most people suppressed, as long as we don't have an egregiously priced Jake DeGrom or some other people like that on a 15-game slate. Even then, they'd probably only reach up to, if it was one of the higher end guys, 30%, maybe 40%. So I don't think we're going to see that from Paxton. So sure, if you want to do it in tournaments, I mean, didn't he have like an 89 pitch no hitter or something for the Mariners, and he had like a 16 or 14 strikeout thing last season? So he can get it done. You are just paying for a lot, and there's not a lot of margin for error.
Yeah, to clarify, you have Paddock, Castillo, Corbin, Paxton all over 10K. Bauer, Maeda, and Peralta are all over 9K, just to sort of set the context as we talk through.
And we have Coors Field.
Right, and Coors Field is on the slate. We'll pull up some FanDuel and Yahoo pricing in a little bit as well as we roll through, just to give you context around the discussion. Paxton is 30 years old. So James Paxton is 30 on the dot. Jason Vargas, I do want to check because I don't think he's as old as 36.
Oh, I think he is. I'd almost say 37, but I'm going 36.
James,
I would have thought
Jason
32
Vargas,
for Paxton. So.
36 and 128 days. Yeah, there you go. Born in 1983.
Wow, there you go.
All right, so I'm fine, again, to your point with Paxton, but Pete Alonso makes up a lot of the Mets' numbers there against lefties, to be quite honest, and those numbers have dwindled over the past couple of weeks. Alonso has struggled mightily after getting off to that really, really hot start. Mightily is probably a little strong, but the numbers just haven't been as high for Alonso over the past few weeks. So if you're
he has a 450 WOBA through 69 at bats, though. That's pretty impressive.
Well, and yeah, he's very solid against lefties, but this is one of those matchups where I'd take Paxton over Alonso. I take the pitcher over the hitter. Now, more to the point is that you want to look contextually at where those numbers came from. The WOBA probably 3 weeks ago was probably up around 600 against left-handed pitchers. So it's coming back down to earth, and one that you probably consider a good matchup here for Paxton, though to Emac's point, the price point will play into how we make this work. Do you want to talk bats here or talk stacks at the end?
We'll just kind of talk stacks at the end, but this would be a one-off. I mean, if you want a Wilson, Ramos, or Alonso, that's fine. But it's kind of hard to target against Paxton. You're just more worried that collectively these guys might not let him get to double-digit strikeouts, which is what we probably want. And by double digits, I mean 9 or 10 would be fine.
All right, Toronto and Baltimore is up next. John Means and Trent Thornton, 7,100 and 7K respectively over there on DraftKings. I'll pull up FanDuel pricing now as well to quote that. We'll hit some Yahoo pricing, as I said. These are 2 middle-of-the-road pitchers, and I am not quoting this for any sort of statistical analysis, but they have both averaged 12.8 fantasy points per game on DraftKings to start the year. They are 7,100 and 7K respectively. So it is very much an evenly matched pitching prospects as far as DraftKings is concerned. Again, I'll pull up momentarily the other sites, but these are two pitchers who we've used in the past. EMAC Means has shown that changeup. We've all quoted how effective that changeup is and the fact that he only throws low 90s, but the changeup makes for such a difference in perception of that fastball, and he does use it well. He hides the ball well as a lefty pitcher as well. And then Trent Thornton, we've heard the elite spin rate, right? It's all about the spin rate for Thornton and has the upside to have gigantic outings. Now, we've targeted Toronto plenty of times before. We've targeted Baltimore plenty of times before, but it feels like these are two pitchers and two offenses that are just sort of middling, that there's not a ton of upside on either side here. Do you see it differently in this matchup?
From a price point, I would like to go to Thornton. And that is because I think on a price per pitch, Dan, I'm thinking he'll get us in the mid to upper 90s. And at $7,000, I have a little bit of interest. The Orioles this season have the fourth lowest WRC plus, coming in at 85, which means they create runs 15% less efficiently than the average team does against righties. They also have the fourth highest strikeout rate at 25. So I'm okay with Thornton. On the other side here means I can't seem to get a good read on him. And going against Toronto I wanted to see if he had started against Toronto yet this year. He actually has not. But Means coming in at 7,100, that is still worthy of consideration. Looking at let's see, what are they? The Jays. They are the sixth lowest at 83% against lefties from the WRC plus perspective, striking out at 24%. So I suspect, since I liked similar numbers from Thornton, I should like similar numbers here from Means, because these offenses are not that great. So I'm okay getting either one of those. I suspect when I make my lineups, they're going to come in about 10 to 12% each of them, just to help facilitate things and get some different 5-3 and 4-4 stacks, since I've started doing more and more of this mass multi-entry, albeit I do it at the lower volume levels, and I don't do it off the giant contests. I jump in a bunch of the leagues and do it that way. So just throwing it out there. Triples, quintuple ups, etc. Those payout rates are about as good as what you're going to get in the leagues, unless you have the perfect lineup.
Yeah, I think price points really play for me here. They'll at least be part of the player pool as we think through exactly what I'm doing for Tuesday's slate, simply because the price points are low enough and there is enough upside. Both these offenses, as I said, are middling to bad. I think both pitchers are middling to okay. So you do have some upside from a strikeout perspective. You do have, the Blue Jays are 23.6% against lefties on their active roster. And then you have the Orioles, as EMAC pointed out, is fourth at 25%. So Thornton and the spin rate, you'll probably hear that narrative pretty loudly on Tuesday from analysts in the DFS world, talking about the upside against this Baltimore team. So we'll keep that in mind as we roll through. Again, this sort of situation, ownership-wise, I think EMAC hit it. It's 15 games, so you're not going to see anyone dominate really at a high clip when it comes to ownership. But I'd consider bagging off one of these two guys if their ownership starts hinting into double digits or higher, or where you just start to worry about how much upside you really have when the ownership creeps up. Let's continue on here as we go game by game to check out the pitching on this slate. Arrieta and is it Duplantier? That's what I keep saying his name is, but I'm going to have to look that up to confirm my pronunciation. Jake Arrieta
I'm
at
not
home.
looking at his name, but I would have thought Duplantier.
Oh, yeah, you're all sorts of fancy.
I'm guessing.
7,400 for Arrieta on DK. Duplantier is cheaper on this slate. He is 6,300. He does have some pedigree in the minor leagues, EMAC. This is a guy that, reaching back into the MILB numbers and understanding his prospects and his scouting reports, he was a guy that was seen as somebody who could contribute for the Diamondbacks. I didn't read anyone saying really in 2019. Now, there have been some injuries and some moves they've had to make that have brought him up, but he seems like he's going to be part of this rotation for at least the near term. It's not a one-stop shop. He's going to be part of it. So they're seeing what they got out of this guy. And this is a Phillies team that the lineup's good. We can take each individual hitter and say, hey, he should succeed here. But we've seen Bryce Harper struggle. We've seen pieces, just fall by the wayside. They've had some injuries and some other issues in the outfield with Odubel Herrera. Do you have some interest in the youngster for Arizona, or is this a game that you're staying away from?
I think I'm more or less going to stay away from this one. Just looking at Duplantier here, he has more innings under his belt than I would have guessed. He was working out of the pen there for a little bit. This will be his third start. He had 5 other appearances. He's got 22 total innings coming in the bigs right now. 3.3 ERA, 23 strikeouts in those 22 innings. So that's nice to see, but some of it's been coming out of the pen. In his, 3 starts here, he's gone 5 innings in 2 of them. Let's look at those as his most recent 2. 11 strikeouts over 10 innings. That was against the Dodgers and the Mets, both in Arizona. He's probably going to go 75 to 80 pitches, which would be my guess. His track record right now is 71, 77, 56. So I don't think we're going to expect a lot out of him. So I'm not really excited at this one. On the other side, there's no real upside anymore with Jake Arrieta. He walks too many hitters. He does not get enough strikeouts, and he has issues with lefties. So that he's still an adequate, number 3, maybe a number 4 starter. You wouldn't hate seeing him on your team, but he is about 2 years ahead of Mike Leake on the aging curve, I would say, or the production curve. Does that feel about right to you, Dan?
It does, and I should realize in cell phone here that I've looked up John Duplantier's name before because it came right up in Baseball Reference. So Duplantier is the correct pronunciation, and I will do a better job of remembering obscure pitcher last names in the future. And he also wears the awesome rec specs, so respect to him for that look. Arrieta is not somebody I have any interest in. This feels like a Ketel Marte double home run sort of night because that's the absurdity of baseball in 2019. And to your point, Arrieta is not missing bats. He's when he's missing bats, he's in the zone. When he's missing bats, he's out of the zone. He's walking guys, and so I think he's somebody on a staff that could win playoff games, but I don't think he's somebody I'm going to really roster much in DFS until that price point really drops below 6,500. I think on DraftKings, like that when you start to look and see what the upside might be. But I have no issue staying away from him in this one and even taking one-offs from the Diamondbacks. Over on FanDuel, just to check in and see if there's price points that are worthwhile. Duplantier is down to 5,900. Emacs point about pitch count is definitely heard, though, and Arrieta is 7,600, so no thanks over there on FanDuel. Let's continue on game by game. Texas and Boston, this game in Fenway. It's supposed to rain all night through the day, but last projection I saw is that it should taper off by 3 or 4, so this game should get in. Something to keep an eye on, though, when you have Jurado and Hernandez on the mound. This is one game that I had circled for the whip count. I feel like Jurado's had a fairly good start to the year, but this is where his whip is going to take a hit against Boston, and Hernandez has been in limited action for the Red Sox. But has a nice round 2.14 whip in his 2.1 innings thus far at the major league level. Lefty for the Red Sox. Jurado hits the mound as a righty. He's 7,500 against the Red Sox. I have no interest in either pitcher in this game. Do you have any, or will you move on to the next contest?
We'll be going to the next one, but our Dominican pal Manuel Laura would have to say, Dan, you don't call him sure. Luis Perdomo, dude. It's That's Ariel fair. Urado. And I'm not even saying that quite right, because it's not a J, but it's not an H either. But it's not that weird U sound like Urias or Urena, but it's Urado.
Come on. Ariel Hurado.
So in any event,
HURR-RAH-DOE is the phonetic spelling.
Oh boy, let's just call him Ariel.
Yeah.
AJ. So AJ will be making his 5th start of the season. His last 3 probably more representative because he had a bullpen session or multiple bullpen sessions in there. He relies heavily on his fastball at about 63%. The changeup comes in at about 14, slider about the same, and then everything else is curveballs. During this most recent 3-start stretch, he's gone 18 innings, 6, 6, and 6 and a third. He has allowed a home run in each of the 3, 25 base runners, 7 earned runs, 15 strikeouts. That's not great. None of it's really great. He's living on the edge. Now, I'm curious to see, and I'm blanking on his name, the other Texas guy that I hated, Adrian Sampson. Damn, he has been very, very decent. So Adam and Lofty were talking about that. They're going to look into it more for his next start, but that one, there may be something to. Jurado, no. I really don't think there is. I think this has just been a little bit lucky. I'm going to put him in the Mike Leake category, but I am going to recommend the Boston Red Sox hitters against him. You're going to pay for him, but you're probably going to get him around 5 to 7% because it's a 15-game slate. So this is one of those times where you could really luck into the Red Sox. Keep an eye on JD Martinez. He missed the last 4 games. He did play on Monday night, but he's been dealing with back spasms. And then the other gift is the Texas bullpen, one of the ones that is no bueno. So we are going to see somewhere between 2 and 4 innings from them. So that is a nice opportunity there for the Red Sox bats.
All right, let's continue on as we look through Tuesday night's contest. It is no line as of right now as we're recording that Rangers-Red Sox game. Same in our next contest up, which is Oakland and Tampa Bay. We have a opener. Looks like it'll be Ryan Stenek, and Jalen Beek should be the pitcher that follows. Again, this is all projections, the way they typically tandem up there for Tampa Bay, but it has come to bite us in the tuchus in the past when we think someone's coming in, and in fact, it is not the way it plays out. Mike Fiers is on the other side for the Oakland Athletics. Fiers, of course, has been pretty okay since that no-hitter. I expected him to honestly fall off the map. I expected him to either have some sort of elbow injury not soon thereafter, or to just completely be the gas can we've seen him at times giving up home runs, but he's been okay from a DFS perspective. Nothing all that special. He's not striking out a ton of guys, but from a Major League Baseball perspective, has been pretty solid for the A's. 2 wins in his last 4 starts. He's been 6 innings or more in his last 3. Strikeouts have been low, so 5, 3, and 3 over those respective starts against the Angels, which makes sense. The Houston Astros also makes sense. Seattle would have liked to see him pick up more strikeouts as the Mariners have been struggling of late. No offense, EMAC, but that has been a team that has definitely fallen off the map since they started the year hot. Any interest in a $7,800 Mike Fiers or Beeks in long relief here at $7,600 against the Oakland A's?
So looking real quick at the Rays, they are the 5th best team against righties. That makes sense because a lot of their best bats are lefties. So no real interest there in Fiers. I've had the opportunity to ride him up a couple times for spotlight hitters and stacks, and he's one of the guys I kind of point out because I ride up I give one recommendation per slate. And when you get down to the evening slate, you're looking at 2 or 3 games out there on the West Coast. So it's more, all right, here's the pitchers. You may think it's a good idea to go against them. Here's why it's not. Mike Fiers says, hell, Mike Leake's made that list a few times. There's also been some times I've wanted to go against him. But he does have a career 4.1 ERA and like a 1.2 and a tick whip, if I remember correctly. So he's actually been okay. Now he's on the wrong side of the aging curve himself. But I don't want to take him. I'd be more interested in some of the Tampa Bay batsmen, depending on their pricing. Let's take a quick gander here. Let's see. Choi's at 4,000. I think on DK that's good. Brandon Lau is at 48. That's a little spendy. Austin Meadows 55. That's a little spendy. Over here with our buddies at Yahoo, what do we got? Meadows 24. That's one of the most expensive batters, but you do get Choi at 15. That's reasonable. Lau is at 14. That is reasonable there. So I'd be looking for pairs and triples against Fiers. I don't really feel the need to go all in because we have 15 games and this is in Tropicana Field, and we don't have that many weather concerns, so it's not a hitter's environment, but a couple of those guys can go take him deep. So that's what I'd look for. Do a little home run hunting.
Sure, that makes sense. And Choi is somebody that can get a little hot and had a home run the other day and has a power bat. So if you can get him at cheap, maybe as a one-off, I wouldn't disagree. But I loathe playing anyone at Tropicana Field. absolutely loathe rostering batters there. Too many catwalk shots. But let's talk next
Yeah,
about.
and it's sorry just to finish it off. As far as Beaks goes, the strikeouts are they're middle of the pack at best for Oakland. So even though we feel like they should have more strikeouts because of the power that they have, they're really down to 21%. Now, Josh and I went through this exercise on Sunday.
They're at 18% against lefties. Like,
Oh
that's
shit, Beaks is a
insane.
lefty. Wait, is Beaks a lefty?
No, I'm just saying,
Oh,
like,
okay.
sorry, this is much more just a note about the A's. Like you said, you expect them to be down there. Like,
Yeah.
they're 18% against left-handed. Like, and sorry, to answer your question, yes, he is a lefty.
Oh,
Secondarily,
sorry.
that's the number that jumps off the page at me is nuts that they're at 18.2% against left-handed pitchers on the year. Yes, they have power-ready bats, but you expect strikeouts there. Like, you expect the power to be up and the strikeouts to be up. 18, they're below 20%. This is a different A's team than the past couple of years.
Yeah, so that's third lowest, and against righties, there's my 21% number. That's sixth lowest. This is not what we're expecting. And then the other thing that Josh and I was pointing out, we on Sunday we kind of went through and talked about where strikeout rates are for starters now.
Mm-hmm.
It's closer to 24%. Like I have the old benchmark in my head of around if you're above 20, you're okay. If you're below 20, well, we're stretching it. If you're at 17 or 18 now, that's like not even pedestrian. It's not good.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
A good
rate. Yeah. Totally. And
we pulled starters out just to make sure we weren't mixing up. What are our relievers influencing that? Because starters aren't going as long, and relievers are being used more often at fresher. Yada yada. So we just looked at starters. It's like, when did that happen, Dan?
None of us are growing as long as we used to, Emac. It's fine. The big thing for me as we talk about a Beaks is you got it. You caught up there.
I was going to make a Cialis joke because I used to work for the company that made Cialis.
Nice. That's solid. It's not solid, apparently, if you have to take Cialis.
Yeah, we're done. And baseball.
And scene. So I like Beaks here in his typical role, right? I like rostering the long relievers. I like getting to these guys at certain price points. One, all the sites have caught up to it. Obviously, last year we got the benefit of them being priced off because they were seen as either relievers, one or two not playing on that slate, so they just were also rans. But Beaks has been somebody I like, and the pedigree is there, the prospect is there. Again, though, projecting how many pitches he's going to throw, how many innings is tough because if Ryan Stanek goes out and shuts him down over 2 innings, you're just taking opportunity away from Beaks. And we've seen it before with Stanek. He's gone out and pitched 2 1/3. He's pitched, 1 2/3. It's not always just that opener 1 inning. And then if the Rays are leading, you get bullpen arms. And so you sort of get it on both ends here. It hasn't been the typical tandem we saw last year. They've been mixing and matching. They do a great job of it. They've had a very solid season thus far. But from a DFS perspective, I like Beaks long-term as a prospect. I like him if we were to see him in a regular starting role. But it's really hard to project out at 7,600 enough to make it worthwhile in this matchup. We'll come back to some of the bats, I'm sure, there later on. Cincinnati and Cleveland, 2 of the, by name, better pitchers on this slate, Trevor Bauer and Luis Castillo. This game's in the Jake, which is not called the Jake anymore, but was it Progressive Field these days? Is that where the Indians play?
I still like to call
it. Bauer is somebody that gets a lot of flack for the drone stuff, and he's very vocal on Twitter, and we know all those things. And this is an Indian staff that has been beset by injuries. You just look up and down. You have the Carrasco issue with the blood, and you have clearly Kluber and Clevenger all on the shelf, and you have Bauer, who a lot of people to start the year were talking about Cy Young Award, and this is the year, and he's putting it all together. The walks have been crazy this year for him. And it's not every start. It's not like he's averaging a ton, but there are a couple of blow-up games where I don't know that he knows where the pitch is going. And when you have a guy of his mentality, not being quite sure of where his release point is, it can get ugly quickly. Are you a believer in Bauer long-term rest of the year? And do you think this is a good spot against Cincinnati at home? Or are you still waiting to see a little bit more out of him before you're paying upwards of $10K for him?
No, I'm on DK. He's 99. So
right, upwards of 10K. Upwards of.
That would be above, right?
No, upward. I would say upwards of 10K. I would say up to 10K. Upwards
Oh,
of
okay.
10K.
There we go. That one. Yeah, yeah. I'm still good with it. It's kind of the new normal here.
Right. It's fair.
So that's what we need to look at. He does have a nice track record of a couple seasons. It does feel like his pitch count is getting up there and he's getting cute and trying. I don't think he's like before when he was trying to strike everybody out and using his like literally 6 different kinds of pitches and all that
Yep.
crap and just getting way too cute. That was a problem 4 seasons ago. Now he still has he's changed some of the pitches. He still has a lot, but he doesn't try them all out all the time. He has certain ones that just go in specific situations, which makes more sense. I think he's just not getting cute by trying to strike everybody out. I think he's trying to do the perfect metric type pitches, and I think he's not focusing enough on, hey, if I'm ahead in the count, I should just try to strike the guy out real quick. Josh looked at this other one here. If you are a hitter with a 2-1 count,
Mm-hmm.
so 2 balls, 1 strikes, your OPS is like, I think, and I'm going from memory here, I think he said it was like 930. Okay, that's pretty high. If you have a 1-2 count, a ball and 2 strikes, what do you think it is?
Against Bauer.
No, against anybody.
Oh, as a standard.
As a hitter. So if you're in a 2-1 count, you have an OPS of 930. So you're on base plus slugging, etc.
Yep.
That's pretty solid. That's a hitter's count, pretty solid.
I would say it's because of the context of the question, I'll say 690.
For something.
Oh wow.
Literally half. And that's across the league. That shows you what the difference is between a 2-strike and a 2-ball count. It's why it blew my mind because I thought the same as you. I'm like, oh, it's like going to be a third less, maybe 40%. No, it's half. It's actually less than half.
And I would assume the crazy number there too is strikeout, right? The probability of that at bat ending in a strikeout has to be insane as well, because of the dichotomy of baseball now. It's a home run or a strikeout. Obviously, I simplify a little bit, but
right. Well, the other thing is batters or pitchers aren't afraid to throw breaking balls regardless of the count anymore.
Right.
So batters can't sit on waiting for dead red like they used to.
That is true. It is a vastly different world when it comes to fastballs and the way they use their breaking balls in any count. And people are learning. Metrics teach people some things from time to time. And I'm sure there will be a swing back in the other direction. So Bauer for you in this matchup is fine, depending on price point.
Yeah, to finish that one, totally fine with that. Willing to pay for him. We'll have enough discounted bats that you can get up there. I don't think any pitcher is safe anymore, but this is reasonable enough. And even though this one is in Cleveland, and since he gets another hitter, I'm really not going to worry about the other hitter at the caliber of Jose Iglesias, Kyle Farmer, etc. So.
Well, you do have the freight train that is Derek Dietrich on the Cincinnati Reds roster, so you got to watch.
Do people just get better as soon as they leave Miami? Is that how it works?
I mean, you look. Someone posted Christian Yelich's numbers, and he had the same amount of home runs in Milwaukee in 4x less at bat. Like it's something insane. Like it's like some insane number of home runs comparatively. And listen, Marlins Park is a lot, but he's just blossomed since leaving. You always look at the roster they would have this year if they'd made no trades, and that's BS, right? Like that's
you can't
do that. But it's kind of like saying, oh, these would be the 5 starters at UNC if all of their players stayed all 4 years and so on. But it's pretty insane. Like it's a lineup where you're like Ozuna and Stanton and Yelich, D. Gordon, and who is at first base? Who's their first baseman?
Oh, the wild boar. Justin
Bour.
All right, so Bour has not done well since leaving.
He has not.
And Stanton's been hurt, but
But Ozuna's been pretty okay.
Took him a year, but he got
Luis Castillo on the other side. Cleveland's been a team that has struggled on offense. Now, season-long averages may not describe exactly what this team is. I think that's a fair assumption with Lindor and on the shelf. But Jose Ramirez has been pretty dreadful. And this is a roster that we knew coming in they were trying to sort of do smoke and mirrors to get through the season. For one reason or another, they didn't invest, but they also didn't make trades. Like they didn't trade Kluber, they didn't trade Bauer, things we heard about, but they brought in some middling talent. They brought back Carlos Santana, who's had an okay year. Do you go to Castillo here with K upside, or do you look at an Indians roster that over the course of the season has striking out at 21.6%? WRC plus is slightly below average. They're at 92, an ISO of 170. These, again, are season-long stats. I don't think they paint the entire picture of what is currently the Indians roster. I am using active roster on FanGraphs, but I still think there's been so many moves and so many injuries. Do you go to Castillo? Do you think he's a cash game option, or do you think there's somewhere else you want to go at pitching?
I don't hate him in tournaments. The one thing I do want to point out is his numbers against lefties. Even since he's gotten better, but even since the beginning of last season, he's faced 508 lefties. He has a where's his strikeout rate? 24% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate, 350 WOBA, 41% hard hit rate, fly ball rate's 30%. So the fly ball and hard hit rate are not bad, but he does have a 20% home run to fly ball rate. Now, part of that is because he is in Great American Ballpark, but I don't want to go here because with all of the switch hitters and that Cleveland has with Lindor, Santana, Ramirez, those guys are all actually better as lefties. And then they're going to throw out Jason Kipnis, Jake Bowers, Naquin, I think, is floating around somewhere. Is it Lou Reyes or Leonis Martin? One of the Martins is on their team. So those would be the guys I'm. It's just, you could literally see 6 lefties, and that just makes it a little tougher. Plus, he's got to go against the DH. So because Cleveland's coming into this with a 4.3 implied run total, and they are slightly more mediocre when you consider like 4 of their main starters are now on other teams that were in their lineup every day last year, I don't want to go there in cash, though. If this game was in Cincinnati, I'd probably have a different answer. That would probably be the tipping point for me, but Castillo would probably be closer to 11,000.
Yeah, 8.5 over under. Cleveland minus 112. Last numbers I saw in that contest. So Cleveland a slight favorite. And that is that the last of our 7 o'clocks as we power through here? We have one. No, 2 more. Sorry, St. Louis and Miami and Pittsburgh and Atlanta. So let's get to those next. St. Louis and Miami. The Miami Marlins were playing at Marlins Park in Southern Florida. And Dakota Hudson, who I don't understand being a major league pitcher, but continues to survive one way or another. He's been fine, Emac. He's been
monster ground ball rate, Dan.
It's insane. It's reminiscent of Keuchel at his peak, and we all know Keuchel is a terrible DFS pitcher, right? And he's somebody that you want to project that if he's up in the zone, right, with sinker ball pitchers, if they don't have it, and they're not, or low zone pitchers and ground ball pitchers, if they're low in the zone, they don't have it, they're going to get bombed, right? That's you're going to get lefty power, and it's going to happen. Hudson's avoided it for the most part. It's just been hasn't given up much power. Has given up what I think a total of 6 home runs on the year, but the majority of those came in his first 2 starts, first 2 appearances. I don't even know if the first one was a start against the Brewers. But since then has limited damage. Pitch count is up around 100. Lots of ground balls, lots of worm killers, right? Getting the job done in that way. This is a spot against the Marlins. We've targeted plenty of. Are we playing Dakota Hudson? Like, is this a guy that?
Oh, we are playing Dakota Hudson. Here's why. He has a 62% ground ball rate across his last 400 batters faced.
That's a nuts number.
He does not allow a lot of power to righties. 0.05. Wow. Lefties, yeah, it's 200, but I'm willing to take that. Now, he walks way too many. He walks 12%. He strikes out 15%. So those numbers aren't good. But Miami has a 114 isolated power against righties this season collectively as a team. Their projected lineup has nobody with more than a 160 ISO, and that is Austin Dean, who got a home run this weekend that probably helped this number out. He has a 168. Cooper, Ramirez, Castro even are all 100 or below.
What?
That's awful. Rojas.
This lineup's insane. Did they cut Granderson, or is he hurt? Did they just let him walk? Because he's not even playing against righties anymore.
He let off this weekend.
Did he? But he wasn't in the lineup Monday night, I don't think, against Waka. You had Dean. You had 5 righties to start off the lineup on Monday night. You had Dean, Cooper, Anderson, Castro, Harold, Ramirez, and then there's JT Riddle, and then 3 more righties: Alfaro, Rojas, and the pitcher. That's insane.
Yep. It says he started Saturday. Granderson finds himself situated on the bench for the second straight day, despite the Marlins facing a right-hander in Michael Wacha, as reported by Jordan McPherson of the Miami Herald. There you go.
There you go. So 6,200 on DK for Dakota Hudson. I don't know you're going to find better value here. Are you going to get a ton of strikeouts? The max point? No, you're not. You're going to get, what's the projection? Probably at 3.5, I would assume, for someone like Hudson here. I know the Marlins are middle of the pack when it comes to K rate against righties, if I remember correctly. Where are they?
They're 24%.
Yeah. Sort of as you're talking that the number you're talking about before, again, for pitchers as where the standard is. But all the other numbers Emacs already rattled off, the ones you can pull up on Fangraphs: 114 ISO, the 77 weighted runs created plus. I'm going to play some Dakota Hudson. Like, Dakota Hudson feels like, especially with Coors on the slate, that cheap
I want a quality start. I want a 6-inning quality start, and I'll be happy. That's all.
Yeah, give me the whip. And obviously, if the walks are up there for him, which are possible, at 12%, you could get a 6-walk sort of outing that just ruins everything, and he's out after 4 2/3. But the probability of him giving you enough points here to be in a winning lineup, I think, is legitimate and scares the hell out of me. I'll be quite honest, because I keep waiting for him to get blown up. But this seems like the perfect spot, which means that it's all going to blow up in my face. I completely recognize that as the most probable outcome. For the Miami Marlins, Eliezer Hernandez is on the mound. I admittedly do not know a ton about him. This is a guy who on the year, I think, has, was it, 1 appearance thus far with a 9 ERA, but I can double check all that. Yep, 1 game against San Francisco, May 28th. Came in for 2 innings, gave up 2 earned runs, no Ks, 1 walk. Don't have a ton to go on here in front of me. I'll try to find a little bit more.
Let me throw a little something out there.
Sure. Oh, he played for the Baby Cakes.
Played for the Baby Cakes. That is right. The New Orleans Baby Cakes. When I learned that was their nickname, I laughed for a long time. I think it was 2 years. I think that was Manny. I think I tried to make Manny guess, and he didn't.
Is this Caleb Smith's spot in the rotation?
Yes.
Is that what we're hitting here?
So okay. Caleb Smith's on the DL, which is unfortunate because you have.
They did bring up Zach Gallen, which
left the strikeout artist, and you're coming in with this kid. Now he has been pitching as a starter for AAA, the Baby Cakes, as we mentioned. He has, let's see here, gone. Well, let's just read a few. He went 91 pitches on June 2nd. That's the last time he's seen action. He was going to start yesterday. They waved it off. He played for the Marlins. He made an appearance on the 28th. And then prior to that, he was back in his starting rotation regularly for New Orleans. And he went 93, 80, 102, 102, 88, 96, 91, 89. So we should see him for 80-plus pitches.
69 strikeouts in 48 innings at AAA.
Nice.
Well done.
We should see him for at least 80 pitches. So I'm willing to play him as well. He is 5,000 on DK. We do not get many 5,000 pitchers anymore. Yes, it's not the easiest of opponents, but it is in Marlins Park. And again, he is 5,000. And we have a game on Coors. So I don't even hate the idea of pairing these guys together.
Yep.
Now, what you are going to need is at least probably 2 of the 4 hitters you are upgrading need to get home runs to even you out with the guys that are the other gamers that are going to be spending on pitching and getting guys that get 20 or 25 points, because you're looking at somewhere between 9 and 14. And with our luck, neither one of these guys will get the win. So you're trying to survive here, but I'm okay with both of them because they're, well, one, as we mentioned with Hudson, he's got a great matchup, ground ball rate. That's all I need. I'm hoping for 6 innings from him. For Hernandez, it's price per pitch. He's going to go 80, 85 relatively easy. I don't think he'll go over 90, but he'll go 80 or 85 at 5,000. I'm in. Give me 4 innings. Give me 4 innings and a couple strikeouts, and I'm good. Get me to that 11, 12 points. I'm fine with it.
Cardinals 23.1% K percentage against righties on the year. They do walk at 10%, so a youngster could get into trouble against this St. Louis team. But I like it, and I think the K rate in the minors is at least projecting an upside here that is legitimate. So maybe you play both. Maybe T-Max point, this is a spot to play. Over on FanDuel, it looks like Hernandez is 5,700. Dakota Hudson is 8K. More than Trent Thornton, more than John Means. So that will be something to consider as you go through.
Now, some quick Yahoo, since they are one of the presenting sponsors here. I would not play these guys on Yahoo. I don't think going down to 25 is enough for me. There's enough guys here in the mid tier of the the Trent Thornton I would like. We haven't got to some of these guys yet, but I wouldn't hate Fires over there. I wouldn't get mad about Spencer Turnbull and spending a little bit. I wouldn't hate Kenta Maeda spending a little bit more because you can save with bats. The other thing about Yahoo lineup construction, while you can do 6-man stacks, the scoring does not really make it so you need to stack like you do on FanDuel, because there are more points for I almost said rebounds. I did say rebounds. Now, more points for RBIs and runs. On DK, proportionally, if we use singles as our barometer, it's better to have a strikeout pitcher. It's better to have a home run hitter, and then stacking not quite as much of a must, but it's more than it is on Yahoo. What they've done on Yahoo is they've rewarded individual stats a little bit more, and by a little bit more, we're talking 8 to 10%. But that's the differences there. So all of a sudden, like DK's kind of in the middle. FanDuel's on the extreme where you have to stack. So the difference between Yahoo and FanDuel scoring is pretty big. You gotta stack. On Yahoo, you don't. The advantage on Yahoo is going for 5 or 6-man stacks because 1, you can. 2, you're playing some guys you really don't want to play. But if you understand their pricing, you can get an advantage. And it's your best 10 against somebody else's best 10 in the contest if you're playing the 10 max. And that's all the higher they go. They have single max, they have 4 max, 3 max, etc. And the other, they have single entry and then they have 10 max. But the others all depend on how many entries are in the whole contest. So it won't just say, oh, this is a 3 max or this is a 4 max. If it's 100 man, usually it's a 3 max or a 1 max. If it's a 300 or 400 person, usually it's a 4 max. But that's how you can kind of tell what they're doing. And they go off at all different sites or all different lock times, and they go from first pitch to the end of the slate. So 1, that's a lot of fun. And 2, people don't pay attention to this. And even though you're not playing big bucks, if you're a ham and egger, if you want to get out there and play every day, you can start to find you're not paying the rake. And by the way, they call it management fees there. It's 12%. So you're already getting a 4% break from any other site. And they do run management fee free tournaments every day. They post them just after lock the night before. It's $3, 10 entry max, no management fees. You got to pay attention to get in those, though, because usually by lunchtime they're filled the next day.
All right, let's continue on here as we talk Pittsburgh and Atlanta. This is Foltynewicz and Archer. Minus 152 for Atlanta, 9.5 over under in SunTrust Park. Archer and Foltynewicz have both been rough goes to start the year. Foltynewicz, I think some folks thought had found himself last year. I did hear some pretty keen analysis saying that this year would not be as good for him simply because of some lucky outcomes he happened into last season. But here we are with, if you talk old school stats, a record that is suboptimal, an ERA that is above 5, and that's for both of them. Both these pitchers here. I have no interest in paying for Archer. I have no interest in paying for Foltynewicz. I think that, yes, there is upside to them, but to talk in sort of the way I know Josh and Adam, the probability of that high-end outcome seems pretty low here. Now, we'll have all of the YouTube series tomorrow. You'll have the MLB strategy show. You'll have the deep dive written up by Adam. You'll have the deeper dive with Lofty and Adam, and then live before lock, so you'll get all of these stats. But this is a game I'll stay away from.
Yeah, I would completely agree. The pitchers are good enough. I don't want to go against them. They're priced up well enough going against offenses that are solid enough. There's nothing. We can go to the next one.
And that is Washington and the Chicago White Sox. Patrick Corbin and Manny Banuelos, formerly of the New York Yankees farm system, then to the Braves, then on to the Chicago White Sox. He's somehow stuck in this rotation. Now, that's mainly because of injuries, but has been serviceable enough to be run out there every fifth day for the White Sox. This matchup against the Washington Nationals, who are a team that have clear-cut power, but not necessarily consistency in their lineup. And then you have Corbin on the other side, and probably the best matchup you could look for from a strikeout perspective, but there is some right-handed power for this White Sox lineup that can do some damage. Do you like Corbin here at 10K plus, or is this again a matchup that you shy away from?
I'm okay with Corbin here at 10K plus. Do remember he is taking on a designated hitter, which is a change because he's pitched either for DC or Arizona for the bulk of his career. It's going to be 71 degrees. We have a slight breeze coming in from 5 to 8 miles an hour, depending on the source that you're looking at from right field. So that bodes well for Corbin with the righties going against him. Same thing with Benuelos. You mentioned they have a little bit of power. I'm still okay going with Corbin here. I'm curious to see where he lands amongst some of our other options, but I'm partial to Corbin. On the other side, no thank you. I'm really not interested in Manny Banuelos at this, even at the 6K price point. The main reason being the Nationals have the fourth best weighted runs created plus against lefties. We know that Rendon, Kendrick, Dozier, Robles, Soto are all good. Turner still barely above average against lefties. That's one of my favorite things to point out. He is getting better. He will continue to get better, but he is not. He is better against righties right now.
All right. Any final takes on this one, or ready to move on?
Nah, that's about it there. You're paying for most of the Nationals that you want, so we're good.
Mike Leake, who's been mentioned many times over on this podcast, without even needing to get to him, 7,600, and Martin Perez at 6,700. Martin Perez has been one of the bigger bright spots until the last two starts. You know, Perez was somebody that, from a season-long perspective, there's one ding. First time I mentioned season-long on a podcast with EMAC, but
Seth is now fist pumping if he's made it this far.
Well, there are things Seth is doing that I don't want to know about, but I would say has been a real bright spot, along with Jake Odorizzi, and why the Twins have been as successful as they have to start the year. Has hit a couple of road bumps last two times out. Had a really bad outing against Tampa Bay, which a lot of pitchers honestly do. It's a very disciplined offense. And then against Cleveland, just didn't have the strikeouts. Gave up 5 runs, but 2 of them were earned. Was sort of let down by his defense, but just 3.7 DraftKings points. Now has a matchup with Seattle. And I made mention before, half joking, about the Mariners, but when you look at this Mariners team to start the year and now where they are, they're a shell of their former selves. Like, they've absolutely fallen off a cliff. They strike out at 27% against lefty pitchers. Is Martin Perez a strikeout pitcher? No, but in this sort of instance, at this price point, he's at least part of my plans heading into Tuesday.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Perez ideally should go long enough and qualify for the win. He's got an amazing offense behind him, and that offense gets to be going against Mike Leake. So Perez is in there, so you don't put all your eggs in the Hernandez and Dakota Hudson basket. Mostly for that reason. I'm curious to see what Laffy and Adam have to say about Perez's last couple starts, because they were Laffy in particular had really picked Perez to come out of the last 6 weeks smiling or smelling like a rose, and he's done well up until the last 2. So I'm curious on their take, but he's an intriguing price point play. Mike Leake, I really don't want to take him against the Twins. He has lucked out in his last 2 starts. He's coming off a complete game. It's like, really? Like, he and Wade LeBlanc had back-to-back just amazing starts. How does that happen? I don't know. But Leake is trending up again with the hard hit rate. He's kind of living on the edge. It will be in the upper 50s, lower 60s at first pitch for this game. So that's a little bit of a bonus for him. But the Twins have one of the best offenses in the league this season. And they have tremendous power with Nelson Cruz, revenge, CJ Cron, Jonathan Scope, even Castro. Kepler had a triple dong night the other night. It's just not worth it for me to take Mike Leake. And then you have the Seattle Mariners bullpen, which is the gift that keeps on giving. So
yeah, it's a game with every possible outfielder for the Twins. You know, on DraftKings, where you're dealing with it, you have 4 of them. If Buxton's in the lineup too, I don't mind any of those pieces, to be quite honest. I think this is going to be a blow-up spot for Leake. Haven't seen a number on this one as of yet. What do we got?
I got 5.9.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, yeah, minus 200 for Twins, 10 over under, 5.9 makes sense. So they're going to be pretty popular as well, depending on where the price points come down. And stacks tend to lean. You do get stack projections over there on Osmo.com behind the paywall. Again, that is promo code EARLYBIRD. That gets you 50% off your first month and gets you in beyond that. That gets you everything other than Fantasy Cruncher. So don't forget Fantasy Cruncher is an add-on, but it gets you lineup builder, it gets you the projections, it gets you ownership projections, and so much more. The article by Lofty or Adam, you do get, if you're listening for free on YouTube or on SoundCloud / your podcasting apps, there's lots of free content over there too. Don't forget that. But we do like when you subscribe. It makes sure that EMAC gets to buy a new hat to hang behind him every few weeks. But there's no video here, so you don't get to see it. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine with it, EMAC. I'm not bitter at all. Let's continue on. As I said, I love all the outfielders in this game, but we will talk a little bit more about stacks before we go. Milwaukee and Houston is up next. We did talk Christian Yelich before. He's 5,900 here against Brad Peacock in Minute Maid Park. Peralta on the other side, 9,200. Peacock is 8,800. So there is some strikeout upside for Peacock here. Milwaukee, one of the best offenses when they are going right on the season, though. 24.5% K percentage, 103 WRC plus, 190 ISO, 10.3% walk percentage. But we all know about the lefty power here, right, EMAC? We know you have Yelich, and then you sort of go down to the secondary guys, but you have Moustakas when healthy, you have Thames when healthy, and whatever substances from Korea that he was taking before he started playing in the major leagues again. But I kid because I love
fuzzy caterpillars. He was eating fuzzy caterpillars.
Exactly. What do you got here? These are two intriguing pitchers to me, but I don't love who they're going against. I guess the Astros still have enough injuries that maybe Peralta makes some sense. What do you got in this one?
The 8 o'clock slate would be about the only place I'd go after these guys. Peralta, bit of a mess in that he was demoted. He's been out of the pen. He's had an opener with him, and he's still 9,200. That's not very exciting at all. But
he's
then
6,900 over on FanDuel.
Oh, nice. That would be the place to play him. What is he on Yahoo? Peralta. Oh, is he even in their player? He is 30. Okay, I would play him on Yahoo. That's it. Full stop. And the only reason I'm doing that is it's a watered down Houston team. On the other side, Brad Peacock. Tough matchup. Really don't want to play him outside of this 8 o'clock slate, and I play all of the slates, so I'm sure there will be some BP there in my life. I'm just looking here to see. Yeah, it's hard to take hitters against him. So against righties, his last 600 righties faced, he has a 33% strikeout rate, just a 25% hard contact rate, a 0.35 home runs per 9. Against, did I not put him on my lefties list? Against lefties, he has 2 home runs per 9, but still striking out 24%, 42% hard contact rate. So you would be interested in some of the lefties. It's not going to be easy for them, but there are a lot of them. So I would lean towards all or nothing with the lefties probably.
All right, let's move on to Detroit and Kansas City. Spencer Turnbull against Jacob Junis, 8,600 for Turnbull, 7,200 for Junis. I know it's a whole new world. We've been talking about it all year long, but these pitcher prices on DK always get me when I do a podcast because they are so inflated. I get it. Turnbull has, again, these are two guys in their minor league careers when drafted, had enough upside that you could consider that as a potential jumping off point to good analysis, but there just isn't been a ton here from either of them that has shown me to have gigantic upside. Turnbull, 3.01 ERA, 68 Ks, 3-5 record, 1.28 WHIP. A Kansas City team that doesn't have a ton of pop in it. There are some bats that maybe you can point to and say that there's some upside. 22.7% K percentage for them against righties on their active roster. WRC plus at 90, ISO at 162. Is Spencer Turnbull part of your plans for Tuesday's slate?
I'm going to give a tepid maybe.
Yeah.
The 8,600 is a really tough price point there on DK. It just, I'd rather go for extreme savings with the cheap guys we mentioned,
Right.
or try to move up to somebody. Same thing on Yahoo. He's 42.
He's right in the middle on FanDuel too. He's 7,800.
He's in the sweet spot, but I don't want to go there just because I'm not really a fan of this. I don't see the upside here. Could anything happen? Yeah, sure. But the lineup here for the Royals is still relatively intriguing. And then depending who is behind the dish, Royals do have some stolen base upside against Turnbull.
All right. So I appreciate that. What about Junis? Again, a guy who I've rostered successfully in the past, has had some big strikeout games, coming off 7, 7, 5 respectively over his last 3, but walks can rear their ugly heads. He's typically around 2, if not 3 per game, and does get tagged by the home run ball from time to time. Does Detroit have enough here to scare you, or is Junis at least a question mark heading into Tuesday?
I think it's 7,200 on DK. He's still a question mark. On the season, 5.6 ERA, 1.5 WHIP. It's not that great. Strikeouts, as you mentioned, they're kind of there. I mean, 66 strikeouts in 72 innings. That's not horrible. That's almost 1 per inning. But he has given up 12 home runs. He has also allowed the 3rd most home runs since the beginning of last season. He is behind Dylan Bundy's 56. Mike Fiers also on this slate, 46, and the 44 of Junis comes in as 3rd. Just makes it kind of hard to go here. But again, that 8 o'clock slate, a little bit of upside here. The matchup for him going against Detroit is an agreeable one. He faced them when, it wasn't that long ago, was it? It must have been towards the beginning of the season. But he did all right. 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 8 strikeouts against him. So solid outing. If he gets something like that, I'm happy at 7,200.
All right, let's continue on. A couple more games to go. 3, in fact, so a few, not a couple. And we get to Coors Field, where we have Jose Quintana at 6,500 and the young whippersnapper who absolutely dominated in his first start, Peter Lambert. Sounds like a bad English pop star, but Peter Lambert.
Are you sure it's not Lambert?
Lambert. I will double check to make sure, but 9 Ks, 1 walk. 95 pitches, 26 batters faced, 7 innings overall, 4 hits allowed. As I said, 32.8 DraftKings points. I knew a little bit about him coming in, knew he had a live arm, was somebody that the Rockies were interested in getting up to the majors this year. Did not expect this sort of outcome from him in his first start, but here we are. He's now pitching in Coors Field. This game is against the same team, so you start to think through professional hitters like the Cubs get to see a guy once, and now they get to see him again in very favorable conditions. All in on the Cubs, like all in thinking that we'll have enough yokels out there saying, oh, Lambert, put up gigantic numbers. He's going to do it again against the Cubs and stack the hell out of them in Coors Field.
Gonna have to be the ownership game. Have to see. The Cubs are definitely priced up, especially on DK. Schwarber 52, Bryant 54, Rizzo 56, Javi Baez 56, Wilson Contreras 52. Those are tough price points. Those guys are all about the same price as Peter Lambert. Lambert, I guess, semi in play at 5,800, but I'm not really excited in this lineup. Cubs currently are carrying a 6 implied run total, 5.5 for the Rockies going against Quintana. Feels like a stay away on both sides for me. For pitching. Pitching.
Yeah, total sense. And I think it goes without any analysis that Coors Field is always in play when it comes to offensive stack. So don't really need EMAC or I or anyone in the industry, hopefully, to tell you that is a good place to go. What's that at 11.5? I haven't looked yet.
Yeah, it's 11.5.
And reading Twitter, it looks like Kevin Durant may have re-injured himself in the Game 5. And
no.
Folks are saying that it may have, in fact, I know there's a conspiracy theory going around that he had torn his Achilles. I think lots of people are saying he may have, in fact, done damage there. So
damn.
We will wait to see. He has re-injured his calf/Achilles area. and some Toronto Raptors fans on camera waving goodbye and clapping. That's not
Guys,
the
remember you have fragile as glass quads with, or I guess quad with Kawhi Leonard.
But it's also, that's not the Canada I know. Come on, you're all polite. That's the whole point of.
Well, you know, they're taking their cues from minority owners of the Golden State Warriors.
All right, let's continue on here as we hit the final 2 games of this slate. And don't forget, again, MLB Strategy Show over there on YouTube. You want to do the like button, you want to do the subscribe button, then you want to hit the little bell that reminds you that we're going live, so you're reminded each time. You get to see Josh or Jake or Emac or Lofty or Adam. Even though Adam's only 5'4", he does sit on some phone books to get on camera. Good times. Nonetheless, listen, I'm not getting fired over going after Adam.
We encourage it here at
exactly. Paddock and Tyler Beede on the mound. I am a Beede truther who I know will go to the grave on this, but this is a guy in the minors who keeps showing up and being a quad A pitcher. Like, he has legitimate numbers in the minors and has been a prospect for the Giants for the past year and a half. He just can't put it together at the major league level. It just hasn't been something that's happened. I expect him to pitch better at home at Oracle Park because simply it's pitcher friendly. It's the most pitcher friendly. Any interest here in Beede? I think Paddock makes tons of sense, but he is expensive across the board. Do you like anything about Beede's game, or am I simply just completely off the reservation when it comes to thinking that one day he'll pan out?
Nah, it's in his eyes. Can't do it. Nobody listening's gonna get that. I'm glad you did.
All right, we'll move on from there.
Paddock, yes, you can have some fun trying to pay that price point on the main slate. I think it's a reasonable one to do. He had a good start, managed to go about 5 innings against this same squad and put up a solid number. I can see that happening again for him in this ballpark.
All right, let's close it out with our final contest. As you said, the Battle for LA. I'm pretty sure that was a Kurt Russell movie at some point. Kenta Maeda and Felix
Escape
Pena.
from LA.
Yeah, I know. Emac.
Well, Battle from LA was a different movie.
Oh, was it actually a movie? I don't remember that movie at all. Kenta Maeda, Felix Pena. Is Pena getting an opener here, or is he actually allowed to go out and start himself?
He'll, at some point, they'll insert a player. It would probably, depending on who went on Monday night, it could be Bedrosian.
Bedrosian, which is such a good name. Kenta Maeda against Felix Pena. These are two. Well, the Angels are an offense that do not strike out at last check. They were at 15.9% against righties. 15.9% on the year, 10.6% walk rate. So a 5.3% K minus walk ratio. That is absurd in today's Major League Baseball. So I don't love going to Maeda here, and I know he has upside as a regular pitcher, but I don't like that. Felix Pena, I will love the Dodgers bats here. I think people are still misconstruing Angels Park as a pitcher's park and missing out on the power here. I will be all over Dodgers bats in this contest. What say you between Pena and Maeda, Emac?
Yeah, definitely the Dodgers there. No real interest in going outside of the 2-game 10 o'clock slate. No real interest in going really either to Maeda or the Angels.
All right.
Just to finish it up, it's too spendy for Maeda. It's not going to be an easy matchup against the Angels.
What do we got for stacks? Obviously, Colorado and Chicago are going to be top of the list.
The Nationals.
Okay.
Definitely Minnesota, depending on the weather. Boston, clearly going against Gerardo, and maybe the Rays. Those would be the ones I'd narrow it down to start with.
I'm going to go with Minnesota. I'm going to go with the Dodgers, who I just mentioned, and the Nationals, or obviously Colorado. I said that, but the Cubs and the Rockies, and then I think the Nats, Twins, and Dodgers will be where I spend some roster construction time on Tuesday. As always, you can find Emac over on Twitter at EmacDFS. You can find him, though, in Slack chat. So to do that, you need to be a member at awesemo.com, and then you can DM him all day long. You can just keep sending him messages at Emac, and just
awesome.
Really,
it's awesome.
It's awesome.
Do
you know I can't spell the word awesome anymore?
Nope,
when
that's
I type it.
something that happens to you
can't-
when you work at Osmo. It doesn't
I
work.
can't, like, to the point where I'm at work and try to write awesome to somebody and work, not Osmo, but my day job. And I hit send because it's an IM, and I hit send right away and it says Osmo. And they're like, yeah, dude, it's Osmo. Like, oh, damn it. But you can find us all over there in Slack chat. To be a member, use the promo code Early Bird. You find us on Twitter, Osmo_com. And there are a ton of sub Twitter accounts too that you'll follow. There are contests going on for the NBA Finals if this continues on. We've had some good giveaways. You'll want to stay tuned for those. And there'll be more throughout the summer and into the fall. Football's not far away, which is insane, but that'll be back before you know it. If you are a member, you get projections and the whole like. So again, EMAC over on Twitter at EMAC DFS. Find me at Dan Strafford. As always, happy to hear from you with comments on our YouTube and our SoundCloud pages and wherever you listen to your podcasting needs. With that said, best of luck on Tuesday's slate. Tomorrow morning, you get me, you get Lofty right here on the DFS Other Bird, presented by Awesemo.com.